Megan, and I'm an account manager here at Marquee 360. Um, and you'll also be hearing from Charlene, another account manager, and from Mia, our solutions architect, who will be doing the demo today. So the agenda will be Charlene and I will give a little background on Marquee 360 and our focus areas, and then Mia will show the demo. And then we'll have some time for Q&A, hopefully. So we'd love an interactive audience. Please ask questions along, as we go along or in the chat, and we'll get them answered. And keep in mind, we're always happy to do a one-on-one demo for you and your company. So a little bit about us. Marquee 360 was founded by former Microsoft employees who are considered industry leaders. Our team has 20 plus years in the industry. So we have a really seasoned team with a lot of experience. And our mission is to create a smooth and easy to use solution. So in order to drive growth and enhance your internal processes and operations. And we do that by bringing best practices to build on your efficiencies and overcome any challenges. Filling in any gaps, we're happy to do discovery calls and again, show you a customized demo. And also, we were Microsoft's finalist for Partner of the Year for Project and Portfolio Management, and it's our 3rd year up and running, so we're proud about that. Our core focus for successes are innovation. We take the Microsoft suite, and again, we accelerate it, filling in any gaps that may not be included in the Power Platform. And we just take it to the next level to fine tune it, meet your needs. We work really closely with Microsoft's technology team during their development. So our solutions always kept up to date as well. We act as your trusted advisor and make sure to support you from start to finish. We also use our learned best practices to design our solution around what your own individual PMO needs are within each of your companies. And then lastly, we understand how important support is. So when you're launching a new program, we're here to support you in the areas of the Microsoft Suite and our accelerator. And now I'll hand it off to Charlene, who will be going over some of our key PPM solutions for the new planner.
Thanks, Megan. So like Megan said, we're going to be going over the new Microsoft Planner today. This is Microsoft's newest product offering. So Microsoft has invested a lot of research and development work into enhancing the work management experience. So the new planner is going to include features that allow you to see all of your work and allows you to manage tasks, to-dos, and projects all in one app. So team members can be assigned tasks, update progress, and collaborate with team members without having to switch back and forth between apps. Like I said, this is going to just show a little bit more specifically about what we do with Microsoft Project. So we take the capabilities that already exist and expand on them. So Project as it comes is going to give you some light task management, and then we use Power Apps to enhance that and give you an intake app, budgeting, timesheets, all those features that aren't already included. And then we connect them with Teams to give you that collaboration back and forth all in one place. And then we use Power Automate to automate processes and workflows in the background, and Power BI to put all of that data into nice interactive dashboards that you can see all the data from your projects. So that's going to be our whole solution, the planner and project accelerator, but it is modular, so you can break it down into different apps. So if you just need an intake, we can do just an intake app, or if you just want reports, we can do that. So you're not getting a bunch of features that you're not using. It's really customizable to your organization and the needs that you have. And then I think I'll pass it over to Mia now. We'll get into our demo.
All right, thanks so much, Charlene, and thanks, Megan. So today what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the project lifecycle. And as we walk through the lifecycle, we'll talk with you a little bit about what we've done with previous customers that have been in the healthcare field. And that way we can talk about some of the things that have helped them with their implementations. So we're going to start out with an introduction to Microsoft Planner. Throughout this process, we'll look at how to set up a project. We'll start out with intake, see an approval process, and have that project created. We'll definitely talk about task management. And a big part of all of this for us is going to be constant collaboration and communication. With healthcare networks and hospitals and people in different locations, collaboration and communication is key. So we're going to look at some ways to make that easier. And then, like Charlene mentioned, we do have Power BI reports that are going to show information throughout the life cycle. So we'll be sure to check in with those reports and see how all of the information that we're collecting comes together. All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and we'll start going into a demo. I'm showing right now the PPM 360 solution. Like Charlene and Megan mentioned, PPM 360 is a modular solution. It's a pre-configured solution also that we've created. And because it's modular, what we're going to do today is we'll look at a couple of different modules. You can choose whether you choose a couple of modules to meet your needs, or if you start with, the base package and then kind of add on to that in phases. It's pre-configured, so that makes the deployment quick and easy. And then it's also customizable. So an important part of all of this is requirements gathering so that we can make sure that the way we're setting this up meets what your needs are. So what I'm showing now is PPM 360. There is a navigation menu on the left. Right now, you'll see we're on the home page. And the home page is meant to give us a quick, easy view of information across all the projects in our portfolio and show us how that data rolls out. So we can quickly look at this and see where most of our projects are based on their state, right? Or how things are doing based on the overall health of the projects that we have. And as we scroll down, you'll see that there are more charts. These charts can be customized as well so that you can see what you need to at a glance. So we'll start actually with a demo at the beginning of the project lifecycle, which is the intake process. But as we head over to the intake area, I do just want to point out that a lot of times the engagements, they start before we're actually, getting to this point, right? A lot of times with our healthcare customers, there are specific needs that need to be met related to security, right? So what our team is very used to doing is taking whatever training we have to for our customers, whether it's compliance training or HIPAA training or general codes of conduct or all of those. Our implementations typically will start with those. And that way you can make sure that when you provide accounts for us and share your environment with us to build this, that you are, following all the right safety protocols. We also start every implementation with requirements gathering. For some of our healthcare customers, it's been more beneficial to have workshop sessions. So we talk with a group of you about what your biggest priorities are, what your current pain points are, and then usually, your top 5 or top 10 needs and wants, and what you consider out of scope. And then with the workshops, we take a deep dive into different topics so that we can really talk with the teams and gather the requirements that you need. So it's important to know that heading into an implementation with us, when we start to look at the project lifecycle and what we're going to set up for your teams, what we typically do is start with intake. So this is the first module we'll look at, and you'll see that I've already created one based on this webinar topic today. And I saved it as a draft. So we can see the status up here at the top. This intake portal is really helpful. It helps you to gather everything that you need as far as the requests for new projects in one place. What you can do here is apply security, or we can apply that security for you. So I am an approver, and I'm also an admin here. So that means I'm seeing all of these requests. I can scroll through and see a large number here. But if we apply security, we can set it up so that requesters, for example, can only see what they've submitted. Or people can see requests as long as they are, the project manager of a request or a sponsor. So this list can be pre-filtered. For people like me that are seeing the full list, there's a really nice search feature here too. So as long as I know some of the project name, I can type that in here and start to see the matching results. So I don't need to know what's at the beginning, but as long as I have something even in the middle that matches a project name or a request name, that's enough for it to come back in the search. So it makes it really easy to find what you're looking for. Now for us, we're going to look at this one a little bit more. In the gallery, we can see some high-level details. And what I'll do is go ahead and open this up so we can take a look at what the request process looks like. So you'll see here that the request form is organized with different pages, and each page is going to have different information. So I filled in some of this ahead of time just so that we could have more time for discussion and questions if we need to. So you'll see that this is pre-filled with some information, but essentially what we're doing here is we're capturing the data here that and first what an approver needs in order to make a decision, right? And then also we're capturing information that we know that the requester has. What we've seen with some of our healthcare customers in the past is that this might need several stages. So what we can do is set this up so that as we work through an approval process, additional pages show or additional fields display. So that's been a really popular option. Another thing that we can do here, and I've done for a number of our healthcare customers, is specify different request types. So we all have, the needs for different types of projects. You can see in this request type drop down here, we might do a marketing campaign, right? We'll have some projects that are IT, some projects that we're going to sync over with Azure DevOps, or that'll be agile projects. What we can do is we can start that process here. By identifying the request type, we can define different parts of this, like what fields display on this request form. We can define which page is displayed here, and we can also define what our approval process is going to be. So that's a really important field on this form. As we go through these different pages, you'll see we're collecting different information about these projects. So our proposed budget, for example, right? What our benefits are going to be, both what our cost benefits will be and a description of our benefits. The scoring is also an important part here. So what you'll see is a list of business drivers. And these business drivers, we set them up based on, what's important to you as an organization. And then with each business driver, what happens is we fill out a rating. So you'll see that I've already got some ratings into the first two. But for improving product quality in this example, we've got these different ratings that we can select. And as we choose these ratings, you'll see the priority score gets updated. You'll notice that in our demo environment, we have this set up very simply so that you can see the number here and you can see we're just adding the number in real life. A lot of times we won't show the score value here so we don't influence anybody. And then the priority score calculation, it could be that we have a number associated with this that we just add up. It can be an average, it can be a weighted average. And with the weighted average, you can really focus on which business drivers are most important to you at this time. So with that, we'll get a priority score, and that can help us to make decisions later on. And in the last page here, we can upload attachments. So it's really quick and easy to add files here. If there is anything that would help a decision maker decide whether we should move forward with this project or not, this is a great place where we can attach more information. Or if there's a project that we did that was similar previously, information from that project can be helpful here. So with that, we've captured all the information, and I'm going to go ahead and submit. I do want to check in with you all before we finish with the form itself and solely look at the approval part. Does anybody have any questions about what we just saw here, or any questions about what's possible with intake forms? All right, I'll check in with you later, but anytime you have a question, feel free to add that to the chat, or you can unmute and jump in. Now that we've submitted this request, the next thing that is going to start happening is the approval process. So now we've got to start routing this to the people that are going to make the decision about what happens with this request next, whether it is placed on hold or whether more information is needed, or if we create a project. So that process starts kind of behind the scenes. We have different ways of identifying approvers, and we can work out using Power Automate what your flow should look like. A lot of our customers that are in the healthcare industry have had multiple steps of approvals. And as each approver is reviewing the request that we just submitted, they might have additional information to add. We might need to send it to different people based on the type of request it is. So those are all possibilities. So with our workflow here, the next thing is that it's looking for the approver, in this case, that's me, and it's going to request that I review this request and approve or reject or request more information. While we go through this approval process, we typically also include notifications just to keep everybody in the loop. So the notifications can be defined by you as well, and then we'll build them based on what you need. But in the example that we'll look at today, I'll bring over my Outlook inbox. The example that we'll look at today, we'll see that there is a notification letting me know as the requester that my request was submitted. So now if I ever do need to follow up on this and just make sure that I submitted it, I'll have this email to refer back to. And then as the approver, I'm getting this message letting me know that there is this request out here. Thankfully, there's a link here, so I don't have to navigate back over to the request area and then search. It's so much easier to just click the link and then view it. And then we also include some high-level information from the request in the email itself. So that way, you don't have to dig around as much. One of the options we have for the approvals here is to approve from this email message. Usually, when we do an implementation, we've got more options than just these two. All right. For demoing purposes, we really just need the approve and reject. But it is common to have things like add to pipeline or place on hold or request more information. And whichever option is selected here, the next step of the workflow is all based on that. So we have this request for approval coming into Outlook because people spend a lot of time in Outlook. People also spend a lot of time in Microsoft Teams. So we also send this request for approval into Teams. So that's another option that you have. And if we go over to my activity section in Teams, you'll see this request for approval, very much like the one that we just looked at in my email. From here, we could reassign this to somebody else. We could also approve or reject or whatever options we add for you will display here too. So it's really helpful to be able to see this in two places. But I want you to just kind of keep in mind that whenever we do see something in two places, you don't need to act in it in both places. You can really just choose which one is the most practical or convenient for you to work with. So what I'll do first is just kind of take a little bit of a detour, right? In real life, we need to do a little bit of evaluation before we approve this, right? In our demo environment, I will go ahead and just approve it so that we can start to create our project and move forward. But in real life, we might want to see who's available to be the PM on this project, right? What resources are available to do the work needed to complete this project? So for that, we do have some Power BI reports that will come in handy. The Power BI reports that we have can be used at any phase in the life cycle, but this is kind of the first point where they do become pretty useful. The reports are linked here on this quick launch. Like Charlene mentioned, this is one connected experience. So almost everything we need, there's a quick way to get there without having to, open up new windows and sign in and all that stuff. I happen to have the reports open in a different tab, so I'm just going to navigate to that tab. And the first report that we'll look at is the requests dashboard. So we just talked through the intake request, we submitted that form together and we approved it. But sometimes if there is something that we put on hold or added to our pipeline, we might need to evaluate all the different requests that are in the system. The request dashboard is there to help you with that process. So if we need to take a deeper dive and say that we're going to look at projects based on the sponsor, or request based on the sponsor. We can interact directly with the charts in Power BI to filter the rest of the report page here. Maybe we want to look at the priority scores and sort. So you can see here that I've got this sorted in a way where all of the priority scores are farther down on the list. And then the ones without a priority score I'm looking at first. These are kind of the older ones. If we wanted to look at requests by status, right, we can see what's submitted and waiting for input. So this is a great way to see what the request dashboard or what the request situation looks like, right? We can look at this and see what needs attention. And if we ever need to look back, maybe at the end of the year and see how things went, we've got this to refer to. As we're deciding whether or not we can move forward with the project, we may want to check something like the portfolio timeline. Here we get to see for this current time, and today is marked with the dotted line, we get to see what we've got in progress right now. So if we saw that the proposed start date on our request was next week, we can look at this chart and kind of get an idea. So if we look at these, we'll see that Stella's got a couple of projects that are in flight right now, so we might not want to assign her to a new project that's starting next week. We can see that Neil's got one, and I've got one that's close to finishing, so maybe I'm a good person to add here. Charlene as well. So this can help us with that type of planning. And then we'll look at reports more as we move forward, but there is also a report that'll show resource assignments and resource availability. If we're thinking about the project team and who's available, the resource availability is going to show us really quickly. We've got this heat map here, so we can quickly tell who's overallocated, who's underallocated, and that way we have an idea of who to assign more work to. If we need to filter this by role and then just see what the dev team looks like and who's available to start, we can do that too. And another enhancement that's really nice here is to color code this a little bit deeper. So we can color code this so we can see exactly how overallocated someone is or how underallocated they are. And then at a glance, it's really quick to know how you can redistribute work if you need to. And then one last resource report here, there's a report that's dedicated to assignments. So if I see that Michelle in this example is assigned to a couple of projects, I also might want to look at her different tasks that she's assigned to. And not only is this telling me the start and finish date, but this is also telling me the progress. So for any of these resources that I'm looking at, I might get the impression looking at this that based on the dates, everything is completed or near completion. We can see this on this row with Mahesh here. It looks like everything should have finished this week. But this report, one of the nice things about it is that it takes it a couple of levels deeper. We can see that, beyond being assigned to this time frame, Mahesh is only 9% completed. So we know that we've got to give him time to finish the rest of the work associated here. We can get an idea of how many hours left are needed for him to finish this task. And that really helps us with making the decision about whether we assign Mahesh to this or not. So just looking at the dates, we could have possibly overloaded him with the project that starts next week. But thankfully, with this assignments report, we know better and we're not going to make that decision. So we'll definitely come back and look at reports as we start to execute our projects. But I just wanted to show how useful these can be at this early stage. Does anybody have any questions? All right, so then we'll continue on. We were looking at our request earlier. We submitted it, we approved it together. And the next thing that would happen in our workflow is that in this demo environment, it will create a project. Just keep in mind that in real life, it's possible that there could be multiple stages for approval, but for demoing purposes, we just need to show the one. So now we can see that the project was created. There is a link to the project here. So if we need to quickly get to the project, we can do it from this page. But also remember, we've got our menu on the left that'll take us to all these different areas. So we started out on project intake, and now we're going to move over to projects. And what we'll see on this page is a list of projects. I have already taken the liberty of creating a project that has some data in it. And we'll see that right on our top row here. But one thing to note about this projects area is that there are different views. So right now we're looking at the My Active Project view. This is the default view in this environment. And this is really helpful because anybody that signs in, they'll see projects where they're the PM and projects that are active, and everything else is filtered out. I will show this kind of briefly, but there are a lot of other views that are possible. So if we wanted to focus on financials, right, we could use our financial summary view. Same with effort if we wanted to focus there. If there's a project that we've archived or a project that's closed, we can still access it using these different views. The reason that it's really helpful to have something like a financial summary or to have views that are set up based on, different topics is that each view is going to have those specific columns. And the views are, you can interact with them. So if I need to make some quick updates, I can do that from this page. So if I've got a view related to financials, I can use this view to take a quick look at the financial data related to my projects, and I can make updates if I need to as well. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at this first project here. So you can see that there's already a status here. I've already done the first weekly status report, even though it's a little bit early since this project starts today, but we'll go ahead and take a look at this one. So we've got our project open, and before we jump in and start to update our project data, let's just take a quick look at the orientation. There's a general menu at the top here. So this is where we'll save or save and close. Below that, there is a business process flow. This is where we'll have your project governance workflow. It's really important to kind of pause here and just note that everybody's workflow could be different, or maybe you have multiple workflows. All of that can be supported here. So this is one example of a workflow. This example also has approval steps. So when I'm in initiation, I can confirm that my deliverables are completed, and then I'll move into the approval stage. What this will do is it'll contact the approver, give them an email like we saw before with the request area, and it will request that they review our project and approve. Part of what I want to make sure is clear here is that none of this is required. If you want to have a workflow where we just go initiation into planning into execution, that's possible. And then what happens frequently also is that some steps might require approval while others don't. Any one of those combinations is a possibility. So below the workflow, you'll see that there are different tabs listed here. And each tab is going to have different information on it. So what we'll do is we'll work our way through these different tabs and talk about how you would use this during the project lifecycle. So first, we're on the summary tab, and we'll get a summary of our project information. One thing that helps the PMs is to have this set up so that some information from the request area automatically carries over into the project. So what that will do is it'll give the PM a head start. They don't need to worry about filling in all the fields. They'll be able to have the fields that come over from the request area, and then they can modify those as needed. The main takeaway with this page, and the pages coming up, is that there are different field types that we can include. Some of them can be as simple as, a drop down, right? Some of them can be a simple lookup field where we're looking up a person and selecting them here. But there are some fields that are special, so we'll pay a little bit more attention to those. First is the Microsoft Teams integration field. And you can see here on this project, it's set to yes. And what that means for us is that in Microsoft Teams, we'll create a team based on this project. So what we'll see in Teams is that there's a team that has this same project name, and everything that we can access here, all of these tabs and the workflow, we'll be able to update through Teams. So if somebody is IMing with somebody, let's say that I've got an IM conversation going on with my project team. So Stella, Charlene, and I are all talking about the status of the project. As we're IMing, it can be a lot easier to get over to the project from Teams if I'm there already. So I can go ahead and make my project updates there. And then maybe I've got an approval that's waiting for Megan. So I can go ahead and update my project, but then also reach out to Megan pretty quickly there. So that's a really helpful feature. We'll take a look at that as well. Some of the other fields here that are really helpful and important are program and portfolio. And these fields are unique because they identify a relationship. By selecting a program here, I'm going to click here and I'll choose this first program, the Healthcare PPM 360 implementation. But by selecting this, I am associating this project with that program. Same with the portfolio, right? So you can press enter to see the full list of items, but the item I want is here, so I'm going to go ahead and select it. And now if we take a little bit of a detour and we go over and look at our programs, what we'll be able to see is a list of the programs that are in this system. Now, these programs can show information at a couple of different levels. So we'll open up this program, the healthcare program, and we'll take a look. Now, in this program, the first level here is that we're able to define the program. You can see here that I own this program and Megan is the manager. It's proposed. The priority is here, the business unit. We could associate this with a portfolio if we'd like to, but we don't have to. And then basically what we're doing on this page is we're defining this program. If we go over to the status tab of the program, we'll get to see the other level. So our first level is defining the program. Here we're seeing the status of the program itself, but below we're seeing the second level. This is information from the projects that's rolling up into the program. So this program has 2 active projects, 1 project that's on track, right? 1 at risk. With the financials, we're able to see the information about the program itself, but then also information that rolls up from the projects that are part of this program, which includes the project that we are working on together today. So we'll see these values that all roll up from the projects. We can see that there's a little calculator icon here. So if we want to be sure that we're looking at the most recent data, we can always recalculate. And then next, we've got the projects tab. This will show us a list of the projects that are part of this program. So this is a great way to just check on the health of these projects or check on other information about them. If there is anything that we want to see or take a deeper dive into, we can click on the project name and it'll open that project back up for us. All right. I won't show the portfolios because they're very similar to the programs where we can go in and look at information that's captured at the portfolio level, but also see roll up of data from the project level. All right, so with the summary tab, those are kind of the highlights. Project charter, this is a main place where we would carry over information from the intake area and display here. As we start to work on our project, we will want to capture our weekly status, right? So as we are working through our project, we can use the bottom section here to add our status updates. The top section is going to tell us where we are now. We've got 1 active issue, and this is what we look at, what we look like health-wise. We can see week to week as we add our status updates, what the where we've been. So it's a nice way to be able to compare that we've moved from yellow to red to green or however it goes. We'll click on new status report here. And we'll see that it opens up this form that we had just fill out to create our new project. So I'm going to give this one a name. We can put in our reporting date. Something that one of our healthcare customers has done pretty recently is use these submitter and submitted to fields. And what this does, when we enter a name into the submitted to field, and we finish this and save and close, it'll generate very quickly a nicely formatted email that'll get sent to Megan's inbox. So that way she's got a way to see what the status of this project is. With the indicators, you've got a couple of options here. It can be, and we often do this, where we'll set it up so that if any one of these is yellow, then overall is going to be yellow, right? Or if anything is red, then overall will be red. We also have some customers that prefer that everything is manually set. So in the end, the option is all up to you. And then here, what we can do is we can start to enter in these narrative fields that are really helpful to have on status reports. So I'm not going to enter in anything interesting here, but our recent accomplishments, all the great things that we did in the last week, we can list here. And then everything that we are planning to do next week, we can put into our next steps. And then the additional comments are great for those other things that we need everybody to be aware of, right? Maybe upcoming vacations and how we're going to deal with some of the things that are coming up next in the project. So when I save and close here, this will take us back to that status tab. And on the status tab, we'll be able to see our new entry here. All right. Shortly, I'm going to show you what the status report looks like. I want to show that along with the issues and the risks and the changes, because there are report dashboards that are specific to those as well. And you'll see also when we look at the tabs, there is a tab for risks, issues, changes, decisions, also lessons learned. They all work in a similar way to what we saw here, where there's a grid, we can view information, and then we can add a new item if we need to. So let's go over to risks. This project already has 2 risks that have been identified, right? To add a new risk, we can click here. But then also, if we want to edit an existing risk, we can just open up one of these. So we've got inclement weather that's predicted. Maybe this will affect our project. We might have a delivery that we're expecting to be delayed or something like that. So we can capture all the information about the risk here, what the probability is going to be, what the impact is going to be as far as a score, but also related to cost. That will calculate our exposure and our cost exposure. We can capture a description of the risk. We can capture our mitigation plan and our contingency plan. So we can capture everything we need here. And then one of the other tools that is included or could be included is the ability to convert a risk to an issue. So then when I select yes here, let's say that we know that that bad weather definitely is on our way, right? We can change this to yes, and it'll automatically create an issue based on this risk. So we don't need to go ahead and worry about re-entering the information. We're able to save the time of having that automatically create. So this one, we've got an issue that's logged here already. Some of what we can do here is have flows that are showing up so that we can have approval set up. Another thing that we can do here that's been really helpful is have notifications. If we look at my top bar here, the purple bar, we'll see that there is a little notification area. And with these notifications, if you choose to use these, what it'll do is show some of the notifications that are specific to me. So we can see that I've been added to a project, right? We know that because we approved it together. You can see that earlier I was assigned to a change request, same one that we're seeing here in my background. If I'm assigned to an issue or a risk, that'll show with my notifications too. Recently, we had a customer that's in the healthcare industry that was very interested in these notifications, right? We saw earlier some notifications that are coming in through the email inbox. We saw some that are coming in through Teams, but some organizations find that that gets to be a little bit overwhelming, right? So we all know that when we have too many emails of a certain kind coming through, that people don't pay as much attention to those anymore. So what they decided to do was to train their team to, every time they come to the app, just check their notifications and focus that way. So you've got a couple of different options when it comes to these notifications. For things like change requests, we will see these more typically in Teams because this does need to be approved. So that's what we're seeing here. And I think in Teams earlier, we saw one of mine that was requesting a change. Decisions, this is meant to capture the decisions that occur throughout the project. A lot of times when we're in meetings, we'll talk about a topic and then make a decision or start to realize that a decision needs to be made. So this is something that can be really helpful to capture those. And then there are lessons learned to capture as well. Always good to see these as part of a project so that we can make sure to repeat the good stuff and not repeat the things that didn't work out so well. I'm going to quickly go back over to my reports and show that there is this status report here that'll show us our project status. So we can see those narrative fields that we filled out. I'm going to get us a little bit more space here. The narrative fields that we filled out are here. Our risks are listed, our issues, our changes, as well as some of the information that's, higher level from the project itself. With the risks, those roll up and they've got a nice dashboard to display on. There's a nice little matrix here also that shows probability by impact. Issues are also here. And we can use the filters over here that I just collapsed to zero in on a specific project. We could also click on a project name if we want to. So this is the project that we were looking at earlier today. So plenty of ways to filter these. While we're here in the reports, there are other reports that'll show, a roll-up of all the projects. We can have filters here by portfolio or program, so we can focus on one of those, or we can just view everything. We can look at milestones from these different projects and get an idea of whether they're overdue or late or on track. This is a great way to see overall how we're doing without looking at every task, especially if we're following that best practice of having a deliverable or a milestone for each deliverable, right? So this gives us a great idea of where we are and what's coming up next. All right. I do want to go back over to Teams and just make sure that we take a look at some of the project updates that we can make in Teams. Essentially, everything that we updated together earlier. I'm on this team already, so I'm just going to show it because we are starting to run a little bit low on time and I want to save some time for questions. But you'll see that every team has a general channel. The post tab is here so we can still converse with the team. We can mention people and get their attention that way. We can attach files to these posts, all the same stuff that you're used to. But then also with project details, we get to focus in on the parts of the project that we updated in the browser earlier. So remember, we saw those different tabs in the browser. We saw the workflow. All of that is here. And we can always, well, I always do this. I like to expand it. And it really feels like we are working in the browser, right? We have the same amount of space. We can make all the updates that we made in the browser here. But then also if I need to start chatting with somebody, I can easily get to those. Or if I need a file that's on my OneDrive and I need to find it before I attach it here, all of those things make this really easy. I also need to at least show you the tasks area. This is, of course, one of the most important parts of project management is the task management piece of things. So I'll bring your attention back to something we talked about at the very beginning when we were filling out our intake form. One of the options that we had there was to choose a request type. And one of the things we had talked about on the intake form with the request type is that the request type could drive the approval process. It could drive what fields we were seeing on the intake form, but it can also drive how our project is created. It can drive what workflow displays at the top here and what tasks display in the main content area here. So this project was created with a task template. So that way the project manager doesn't have to worry about adding all the tasks. They can start with the template and then make whatever updates they need. With this project, I have already gone in and assigned a couple of resources. On this resources tab, I can add people here. And what Charlene, Megan, and Aaron saw after I added them here is that they immediately got access to the team in Microsoft Teams. So it's a way to include people earlier on in the process. But I do want you to know that as I start to assign people to tasks, they're also going to get added to this resources tab. So what I'm going to do here is start to take a look at these. We'll start with making an assignment, right? Because I've added some people to the team already, their names are going to display there pretty quickly, right? So I can quickly assign these 3 to these tasks. But the other thing is that it's pretty easy to add somebody to the team here. You'll see that I can just start to type in a name and add someone. Right, so I'm going to add Stella to that task. And for these tasks, one of the things that Microsoft has done with this section is that they have worked on incorporating a lot of feedback from project managers, right? A lot of tools do require a fair amount of training to become proficient in. They also, aren't as intuitive. But what this does is it brings everything together in a very intuitive way. We have heard from our customers time and time again that with a lot less training, they're able to start using this. So this is one way of interacting with it in this grid view, okay? But there are other views also. So if this grid view isn't your cup of tea, you can probably find something you like in one of the other views or multiple other views. In this grid view, there is a way to open this up. So if you wanted to see a full kind of section that has this task, you can use this area here. And then, just like I did in Teams, I do like to expand things. So we can see more of this card here. This is a lot like Planner for a lot of you that are familiar with Planner already. So we can do things like set up our labels to add here. We can add notes. We can update our durations, our percent complete, our effort levels. We can add our dependencies. So it's recognizing where in the project plan we are, in this case, task 15, and it's showing me some of the predecessors or possible predecessors that I can choose from. And with these, we can add these as finish to start, finish to finish, start to start, start to finish, even though that's not really recommended, but it's there as an option. We can add our checklist items. So we can go through here and add all of this data. We do have other webinars that we've given in the past where we talk more about this task area. So you should definitely check YouTube for those because you'll get to see all kinds of cool things we can do. Like adding columns, right? There are some columns that are preset, but we can create our own new field to use as a column. There's conditional formatting that we can use. There's a baselining feature. So if we'll pretend that this project is ready to baseline, but I'm going to create a baseline here. I'm going to keep it simply named baseline 1. You'll see that we're capturing information like our finish and start. So by capturing this baseline, what we're doing is we're capturing that so that we can compare to it later on. If we have something like this task now becomes 10 days, right? When we look at our baseline again, we'll see that we're 9 days behind schedule now. Right. I want to take a quick peek at some of the other views, but because we are coming up on time, we've got about 10 minutes left. I do want to remind you that you can feel free to interject with any questions that you have. I'll keep talking through some of these views, but if you want to raise a hand or put something in the chat or just unmute and ask a question, please feel free to do that. So with this view, the board view, it's a lot like traditional planner. We can have buckets that are set up to be anything we want, and these can be part of our template too. But what we can do is start to update our task details by dragging and dropping. So that's quick and easy to do on my screen here. But imagine also if you're using a mobile app to update your project, it's really easy to just swipe to make these updates. So let's say that during the initiating phase, we need to make sure that we are doing our compliance training and updating our code of conduct. We can group these in different ways based on what information we need. If we're making assignments, we can drag and drop these to make our assignments. Okay. So really easy to make these assignments in that way. And then with these, there are really cool things that you can start to dive deeper into. If you have agile projects that you run, you can do those through here. I think April 11th, we did a webinar that was based on how to run agile projects here. So we talked a lot about how you would define your sprints and then how you can start to prioritize your tasks. So it's really easy to start a sprint in here. You can identify your sprint and set the time frame. And then if you are using things like labels or a custom field to capture your t-shirt size, you can go ahead and filter this section here so that all of the tasks that you need to bring into sprint 1, you can just simply drag and drop them into the sprint. So very quick and easy. For people that are more visual, the timeline view is really helpful. If we need to see all the details, we can, click on that little button to see the same card that we expanded earlier. But also, if we need to expand the duration of a task, we can just click and drag to do that. If we need to change the dates on a task, right, we can just drag and drop. And also, the most fun part is if we need to update dependencies, it's really easy to just click on one here and then drag it down. All right, so we can set up our dependency that way. And then there are charts. These are more informative about how our tasks are going. There is a people section. So if we have daily stand-up calls or weekly calls, whatever it's going to be, we can look at what's assigned to each person and start to get their updates. We see the condensed cards here, but we could click on that to open it up and enter more details. At any point, we can click this to mark something as complete. There's a goals section. So if there is if there are a set of goals that we need for our project, let's say that compliance is very important, which it is, we can have some tasks that are specific to compliance. We can have some goals that are needed for communication. We can add any goal we want, and I'll just put in new goal. What we can do is we can connect tasks. So we can use this to look at all the tasks that are in our project and simply just check the ones that are associated with this new goal. So it all depends on how you want to organize your tasks so that keeping on top of things is easy for you. I want to be really clear that when we look at tasks today, I am trying to give you a little bit of an idea about the different views. I don't want you to leave here thinking that you have to use all of these views. You can choose whichever one is most comfortable for you. And within an organization, a lot of times we'll see that different people have, different views that they favor. So as long as we update something in one area, it's going to show in all the other areas because the source is really what we're updating, and that's what's visible in all these different places. We've had some of our healthcare customers that have used Project Online that we set up for them. And then when they move to Project for the Web or Microsoft Planner, then this view becomes really helpful for them. They can enter in, what their work is going to be on a daily basis or a weekly basis. We can group this by resource or by task. So this kind of mimics some of the views that are in Project Professional. All right, there is another section that I have been keeping to the end. It's the financials area. If you do track financials, and I think that more than 50% of our healthcare customers have been tracking financials, it is important for you to know that we can include that in this project view. This is a specific project manager view of financials. We also have a financials module that has an executive view, we call it, where you can see overall information about the different invoices or purchase orders or purchase recs. But from the PM's perspective, while updating a project, it is helpful to see all of that here. As I scroll down, we'll be able to see our budget. We can add new line items. So I've added 2 line items for this, new laptops and training. And essentially what you do is for each line item, you go in and you put what your budget is. Those same line items carry over into actuals. So as we begin to spend, we add in our actuals here. And then same with forecast. There are reports that go along with this that will show us all of this information in a very nice visual way so that we can see what our estimate to complete is. And then also help us to see where we're going over. An important part of this also with the financials module and the healthcare customers that we've worked with so far is that integrations have become really important. We can integrate our financial app with other applications. So if you're using something else to capture purchase recs, purchase orders, and or invoices, that can sync over to here. And what has been, a big part of the feedback we've gotten from the healthcare customers that we have integrated the financials part with is that it's so helpful for the PMs to be able to see everything here without having to, email somebody to see the budget information for their project. So that is something that you should keep in mind. And I'm sure that we already have some webinars recorded that you can find that are related to financials. If you do want a more personalized demo where we look more into financials or any part of this, we are more than happy to set that up for you. And now we only do have a few minutes left, so I'm going to stop talking so that you can ask any questions that you have or share any feedback. All right. You can always feel free to reach out to us, right? Our website is here. There is also this email that you can reach out to get a quick response. If there's anything that you expected to see here today but didn't see, or if there is anything that you would like to know more about, please feel free to contact us.